We are discussing, I believe, a very important topic because to me, mentorship is the same as discipleship. When Jesus gave the Great Commission, he says, go to the whole world. Those who believe, in other words, the ones that are converted, must not be left on their own. You must disciple them. What that word means is mentor them. And so when we as people who are interested in student work, one of the things we need to understand is that if we are part of the Great Commission, one of the methodologies we should be using is actually discipling or mentoring people. And we can mentor people in our generation, but because we those of us involved in student ministry are mentoring the next generation, then that makes sense. The topic we have been given makes sense, and it will be important that we learn that that's what we are hoping to do, mentor them, and that when we do it, we are actually obeying the Great Commission in the process. It's my prayer that as we discuss this, that God will talk to you about it. Now, the definition of mentorship is a supportive adult who works with a younger person to build a relationship by offering, number one, guidance, number two, support, number three, encouragement. In the process, he helps the younger person to have positive and healthy development over a period of time. I take that from somebody called Andrew Perry. And I think that's important to ask yourself, is that what you are doing with students? When we go to speak in the campus, like I have done for the last more than 40 years, the first time I was invited to speak on a campus was September 1977 in the University of Nairobi. And I've been doing it ever since. That's 40-something years. You are doing something that contributes to the student ministry, but that is supposed to be an addition to what is required for mentoring. So I think it's important to understand that we, as a movement, as Focus, must structure our lives, our ministry, such that mentorship is given. The guiding, the supporting, the encouragement of individual students. I don't know whether we have enough time, but I wanted us to do an exercise, and you just go to the chat room and write for me what are the different ways in which you can encourage a protege or a younger person to aim higher, seek to be better, and even to do better. That's part of mentoring. Just suggest for us, that's where I'm involving everybody. What would you need to do to minimize dependence on a protege on you as a mentor? In other words, the first one is saying, what do you need to do? Number two, again, you are not a good mentor if you start doing things for the mentee. You need to find a way of assisting him without him handing over the issue to you. What do you need to do to minimize this possibility? I'm checking the chat to see what you have written. Just write something, because this is something you have been doing, so we are not suggesting something new. I can't see anything on the chat room. We have almost 50 people. Surely somebody somewhere does mentoring and wants to help others in the process. Just write something. Or if you don't like writing, just unmute and tell us. How do you mentor? At least David has written something. Oh, no, that's a question, not an answer to my question. Who wants to answer my question? Repeat that. Repeat that. Somebody said something.
No, it's something that is on the chat already that you may have. It's up there, the first one, offering guidance and praying with them.
Oh, okay. Then I think you are better at looking at the chat room for me. Read all the others.
Someone says listening to them. Someone else says sharing your experiences with them. Felix Nyoro says by sharing our lives with them. I see. Felix again says by sharing our lives with them to avoid reinventing the wheel.
They don't have to repeat our mistakes.
Kimani says through apprenticeship. That's what David Kimani says.
Okay.
Jacinta Kimani Njogu says sharing real life experiences with them cautiously.
Wow. So, Japheth, do you think the answer in the question on how to stop yourself from taking over from the mentee? So the mentee depends on you.
I think they're answering the first question.
Can somebody give us an answer for the second one? Okay, when it's written, Japheth.
Some people are saying that you repeat the question.
Oh, I repeat the question. They are on the wall already.
I've seen them on the chat. Somebody saying that you repeat the question.
Read number 2 for me.
To minimize the dependence of a protege on you as a mentor.
That's a question. Japheth will read for me once somebody writes something. Anyway, I want to answer the question, why should we emphasize, as student ministers, why should we emphasize mentorship? And I think that's a very important thing to discuss this afternoon as we think about this topic. You know, talks, teaching, sermons do not affect values, but mentoring does. I'm here to tell you that when you just give a talk, somebody goes thinking, is that doable? You know, I was, I don't know, some of you may have read my book called Integrity, the Litmus Test of Good Leadership. That book is a result of being confronted by one of my mentees, who is a lecturer in one of the universities. He used to be in the University of Nairobi, then graduated, and of course, we parted company. Never saw him for around 20 years. By that time, he is now a university lecturer. And things he was going through, and he was seeking advice, and was told not to be naive. For example, if you want a plot in Nairobi, you must do what the City Council wants. Then he says, but it's actually straight. He says, where do you think, he's told by somebody of my age, where do you think we got our properties? You must be practical. Then he remembered, Nganga used to come to our CU. He gave the impression that you can be a Christian after campus, and that there's no time you are free to compromise. You know, the guy looked for my telephone until he got it. Then rang me and said, and told me what the subject is, and told me whether I can help him. I told him to put it in writing. He put the questions in writing. Then I finally decided to buy him coffee in a Java. And it's in that Java I was on my defense. It's what I teach, I talk in the, and I've been speaking. He has had me many, many times. Do I mean it? How do I live my life? My age mates are saying it's not possible. And so for the next 2 hours, it was not preaching, it was not teaching, it was just sharing my life with him. How did I get this property? How did I do this? How do I do the other? What were the challenges? How did I go over the challenges? And all of a sudden I realized no amount of telling people among students to be people of integrity, telling them the chapter and verse is going to help until they know it is practical. It can be done. And it's when you share on one-on-one and they ask you questions, they finally realize, if I don't follow, it's not because God has not said it, and it's not because it's not doable, it is me who is backsliding. So when I tell you that a lot of if the ministry, the only ministry we have is the ministry of talking in the Christian Union, and we don't have a one-on-one when people can ask you questions, my friend, we will never be able to convert, to pass values. Information, yes, but change of values. What's a value? A value is a non-negotiable conviction. In other words, values determine our behavior because we don't act outside our behavior. The book of James says, faith without works is dead. In other words, if what you do is not in line with your value, the faith, then obviously you don't have it. The fact that you keep repeating, I have faith, you are just making a joke. There's no, according to the book of James, I can know your faith simply by looking at your behavior, by sharing, understanding how you live. That's what you tell me what your faith is. So, talking about values to students without them understanding and seeing it applicable in our lives, they will have the information, they can even repeat it, they can pass it in an exam, but they will think it cannot be done. Let's be pragmatic. Nobody goes places, nobody makes life without some corners. You must be practical, brother Nganga. Mentoring conversations that allow people to deeply consider matters are a source of greater self-awareness and understanding. Because it is in that discussion that he starts understanding where he stands. This is because mentors practice non-judgmental listening. You are listening to the person, then you use your life for him to understand how it can be done. The mentors allow their mentoring partner to explore their own convictions, so that way you are going underneath to not just the behavior of the student, but his belief system. And I think that is something that we need to be aware of, and hope that we can actually change and give it attention. The importance of mentorship as a discipleship and leadership development process cannot be overemphasized. A unique characteristic of mentoring is that it focuses on the empowerment of the mentee. An effective mentor, whoever that is, an effective mentor is more interested in asking questions and listening instead of telling. He or she has a broader people empowerment expertise which they use. They typically recognize the potential in people and have a commitment to empowering the protege. What I'm saying is, if you're a mentor, you are going to be a listener. As you listen to the person and share your life, it will help him to change his values. Let's look at a few characteristics of this mentor guy we are talking about. Who is you as a focus associate? Number one, they have the ability to readily see potential in a person. If you don't know how to read people, you will not be able to help them. Somebody can be struggling because they are not realizing their full potential. A mentor is able to, you can make it. But don't tell somebody they can make it where they don't have the potential. You try to help people along their calling, along their giftings God has given them. Number two, mentors have enough tolerance with the mistakes to ensure that the potential is developed. You cannot be a good mentor where you give up very easily. I do remember one boy whom I was discipling or mentoring, who had been a Christian because he used to invite me in the youth fellowship. And one day after I spoke in that church, in the youth service, He said, is it possible I see you? Yes. When we went outside, he said, I want to see you for a long time. Can you give me an appointment? Again, I took him to a Java the following week. And that's when he told me, I'm actually a drunkard. Somehow I related with somebody and I ended up drinking, and now I've become a drunkard. I can't help myself. Yet I'm still the youth leader. I'm still giving testimony, but that is my life. And I just looked and thought of all the people who come, you are the only one who can help me. So we started checking from the scriptures what, at least I got saved when young. I've never been a drunkard. So that's not an area I can give him experience on. So we went to the Bible to show him what's wrong with being drunk. Now, why should people not be drunk? Now, then I tried to help him about how to pull out of alcohol. So when we agreed we would be meeting initially once a week, because of course he's in a crisis. We want to help him out of drunkenness. When we met the following week, he said, I went for 3 days, but the fourth I couldn't help. I just had to pass through a bar and pick something. It was too painful. Now, what do you do with somebody when you feel you are wasting your time? Then I think, if I remember correctly, that must be 7-8 years ago, we again met the following week and the following week. Then the third week again, he went into it. The only good thing is that he was being frank with me. My friend, if you are to be a mentor, you must be willing to tolerate mistakes. Instead of condemning the person, work out together how he can come out of the problem he is currently having. So, if you're a mentor, you'll have flexibility to give and take and flow with the situation. Don't be a strict person, because in a mentoring relationship, the boss is a mentee. People keep asking me, Nganga, how do you mentor so many people? Because it doesn't depend on me. At least it's somebody somewhere along the route. He doesn't show up. It's him who decides, is it once a week? Is it once a year? Is it once a month? And I'll not be the one to call the meeting. He has to be the one to call the meeting. Because I may think I'm helping him, and in the end, I'm not helping him. So I have to be flexible to fit into his program if I'm going to be of help to him. Number 4, they have patience, knowing that time and experience are needed for development. Do not get a guy who is 20 years and you are 40 years yourself and start getting impatient. Even you at 20 may have been similar. So, and even if you are better at 20, he is a different person from you. That's really what we are talking about. Because the key word in mentoring is empathy, not sympathy. Putting yourself in the shoes. I'll be 70 years old next year. But if I'm mentoring somebody 20, I must imagine myself at 20 and operate at that level, not at my age. Number 5, good mentors have a perspective which gives them the vision and ability to see down the road and suggest next steps that a mentee needs. In other words, don't just think about the problem now. Think about the future. Help the mentee to see about the future. If a mentee is being very, very parochial, just think about where he is. It's the work of the mentor to ask questions that helps him to see that this is where you are now, but that's not where you are going to be on the longer term. So you need to see yourself longer term. Number 6, they have a gift mix of one or more of the encouragement spiritual gifts. So if you're a mentor, you may have the gift of mercy. You may also have the gift of giving. You may have the gift of exhortation. But of course, you are likely to have a gift of teaching. You have a gift of faith. And you have the gift of wisdom. I'm saying one or more because none of us has all of them. People cannot give to others what they do not possess. Followers simply cannot develop leaders. You yourself, if you are begging for mercy, you are begging for teaching, if there's nothing, you are unlikely to become a mentor. You know, I still remember a church that was trying to tell me to teach, to help old people. There's an old people's fellowship. You are not allowed to join it unless you're over 50 years. And they were telling me to train them on mentoring. And I could see the idea was for those old people to help younger people. And I told them, you have to be careful first. Find out what the old people have. Some of those people are members of Jorin Cheke. So when they relate with you, they start showing you how, as an African, you must do certain things. If you are going to marry, you must pay dowry. You must, and that's what they are doing. So it's not enough to be old. You yourself must have the values that you want the younger person to get. You know, when you talk about mentoring, like I said in the introduction, we are talking about discipleship, ennoblement in the basics of following Christ. That's one of the things. Whatever a person comes to me for us to discuss, sometimes it's about his job, sometimes it's about his marriage, sometimes it's about, you must, as a Christian mentor, draw everything back to Christ. Check whether he has the basics of following Christ before you can go to the specific area he needs help in. Because really, you are a spiritual guide. Help him to see the value of accountability, direction, insight for questions, commitment, decisions affecting spirituality and maturity. That must be something you deal with. So, you are a discipler, number one, but you are a spiritual guide. Whatever the subject the person wants to be mentored on. But you're also a coach. And you know, a football coach does not have to have been a famous footballer. He understands the game, but he may not be a very good footballer himself. And what you are as a mentor, partly is you are a coach. What does a coach do? He gives motivation, he helps the person to improve his skills, and application needed to meet a particular task or even a challenge. That's what you are doing in mentoring. You are also a counselor. You give timely advice. You give correct perspectives on the way the mentee should be viewing himself, the way the mentee should be viewing others. Sometimes they are fed up with their parents, but it's because they are not viewing their parents from a right perspective. Sometimes you need to help him on how he views the circumstances he happens to be in, or even the issues of ministry. So you can see a mentor is many things. Number 5, he is even a teacher. And here we are talking about knowledge and understanding of a particular subject. And that's why when it comes to a particular subject which you are not good at, you become a sponsor. Who is a sponsor? Connect the mentee to resources. Connect mentee to your network. Connect mentee to opportunities. That way, although you don't have the knowledge of the area he is asking you, you have the fact that you are older and have a bigger network. You use your network to reach where he is going. But number 7, the most important thing for a mentor is to be a model. Modeling. Contemporary, a living personal model of if you are mentoring a profession, if you are mentoring life, if you are mentoring ministry, who can give inspiration for the mentee to emulate. That's what modeling. So you cannot here be talking about becoming a mentor when your life is a mess, because it's supposed to be helping. And you know they say habits are caught, not taught. That means whatever you tell him is not what you do. He will do what he sees you doing. But when you talk about mentoring, some of the mentors will not be physical. And you need to encourage your students to understand. Most of the people that have mentored me are biographies. I just finished in the morning reading one biography. I'm now starting a new one. I have been reading biography for the last 45 years. Why? I find those people, when I take the biography of Martin Luther King and see that he is mentoring me. I'm a historical model character from history. It also may be a character in the Bible. And I've taken that. I am just this afternoon, I've been recording a study of two ladies. One is Phoebe and the other one is Lydia. Because when you do that, and I'm hoping if you go to my YouTube account, John N. Nganga YouTube account, you'll see I put a lot of biographies or on leaders in the Bible so that they can mentor you. And I think that is what you are saying. They are modeling the way we should be living ourselves. But let me ask the next question. What's the biblical basis for doing this? What's the biblical basis? Biblical reference for mentorship. Not difficult to get. The list is very long of the number of people that actually did mentoring. Elijah, getting Elisha. You go through the Bible and you'll see how he does not beg Elisha to follow. He is pretty rough with him. But then he spends time all the way until the day he is leaving. He promises if certain things happen, Elisha will have a double portion. And those who are theologians tell us he actually did double the miracles of Elijah. What about Joshua? He's a mentee of Moses. What about Ruth? She is a non-Jew. She requires the real mentorship of Naomi until she places herself where Boaz can see her. You know, Mary, when she gets pregnant and is in confusion because it is pregnancy before marriage, well, she looks for somebody who can explain and help her, and she realizes her cousin Elizabeth is also pregnant. She hears, and she goes to it, and she is encouraged. She is mentored. And of course, of all things, I don't know whether we would have had Paul if we didn't have Barnabas. Barnabas is the one who defends Paul before the people in Jerusalem, who are saying, no, don't trust him. Don't you know he's a killer? Barnabas says, and of course his name means sons of an encouragement. And when they start going together on missionary journeys, if you look at the story, it is Barnabas and Paul. After the first missionary journey, it now becomes Paul, even before the end of the journey, becomes Paul and Barnabas. Paul became a leader. And many of us have to understand that the people you are mentoring in another 10 years will be your mentors. I have that experience where there was some people, some lady we used to mentor. She used to come visiting us. Both my wife and I were preaching in Chiromo campus quite a lot. And so they would offer to come home, and they did. Then the lady joined IT. One day she just said, Brother Nganga, why don't you have a website? I said, no, that's not my age. That's for you people. That lady followed me, told me, you don't have to do anything. Just give me permission. I'll prepare a website for you. And I'll even teach you what to do. That time she followed me. I said, okay, what do I do? She gave me a series of questions. I answered them. She formed the website. Those of you who have been to my website, it had nothing to do with me. She went, did everything. She was living in Mombasa, came to Nairobi, and we are in Ajava, and she told me exactly what to do. And you know, I was not aware about the digital world. Of course, at my age, I can be forgiven. But this lady knew. So I say, how would I use the website? She says, those same sermons you are giving to university students, we also need them. Say, but you graduated. No, you can still talk to us. Every time you give a sermon in the university, place it in the website. And any one of us will automatically get it. I said, how? They are going to subscribe. And of course, you made her friends subscribe. And he says, shows me how to upload my message. When I upload the document, automatically the machine sends to all the 50 people. It's something I still don't understand how it happens. That all I need is uploaded. Do you know that number has grown? There are people now all over the world. It has a number like 3,000 people. Surely any pastor with 3,000 people believes he has a big church. It was all being mentored. And you need to understand, Barnabas is mentored by Paul. But then finally, Barnabas is the one who is leading. Then, of course, you have Paul and Timothy. And he writes the books. The books of Timothy, 1st and 2nd Timothy, are mentoring books. And of course, Jesus was the mentor of the 12 disciples. And Barnabas, after mentoring Paul, takes over a new mentee called John Mark. So we can, if you're asking, is this a biblical model? Obviously, you can see clearly it is, and it is something that we need to know. You know, I want to read for you 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2, which is the mentoring verse. It says, "And the things you have heard me say," this is Paul talking to Timothy, "in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable people who will also be qualified to teach others." That's what mentoring. Mentoring is a process of transferring knowledge from one generation to another. Patterns are developed over a period of time. Hence, Paul urges his mentee Timothy, and also the other mentee called Titus, to entrust the knowledge they got from Paul to appeal to other people, reliable people. He demonstrates the fact that whatever he had shared and taught these two mentees was of great value, but should not last with them. It must be handed over to new people. Titus is told, "What you heard from me, keep as the pattern of sound teaching, with the faith and love in Christ Jesus." Let's go back to 2 Timothy 2:2. The first generation is Paul. The second generation is Timothy. The third generation are the reliable witnesses. He entrusts the message to them. The fourth generation are the people, those Timothy's and mentees they will mentor. So you can see verse 2 has 4 generations getting to get the values of the kingdom. That's what mentoring is all about. You know, mentoring is God's design for growth in spirituality. But it also helps with character and even in channeling people into ministry. Paul urges Titus to teach various age groups to ensure their growth and maturity in character and ministry is actually done. This was a transferable process from one generation to the other. So when you help one, you can help the other. You know, Titus 2:6, I want to read it. "Teach the older men to be temperate, worthy of respect, self-controlled, and sound in faith, in love and endurance." That is your message as a mentor. You are the older man or the older woman. Temperate. That means you don't act on emotions. A life worthy of respect. That you are not, that people don't find it difficult to respect you. You are self-controlled. Important. As a mentor, you must be somebody sound of faith. As a mentor, you must be loving. You must not be self-centered. You must be other-centered. And finally, we have already mentioned before, you must have endurance. Not somebody who has a short fuse. Likewise, teach the older women, this is now women mentoring, to be reverent in the way they live. If you really are a woman who will mentor, you must be reverent the way you live. You must not be a slanderer. Of course, Paul is assuming women are gossipers. And he's saying you don't talk ill of other people. Don't be a slanderer. But I didn't know women drink, but in this instance, they are being told, avoid wine. And teach what is good. Because you could teach wrong things. In that way, they can urge the younger women to love their husbands. That's one of the things women are supposed to mentoring younger women on. To be homekeepers, loving their husbands and children. Also, the younger women you are mentoring to be self-controlled, to be pure, to be busy at home, especially these ladies who are professionals. I'm Professor so and so, and yet at home she must be a wife, a housewife. She must be a mother. How does she move from being a professor to being a mother? She requires to be helped by people who are, and I know my wife was doing that the other day, talking to a lady who wants to feel like she wants to approach things. And so she looked for my wife. She thought a woman with a PhD would help her. And my wife explained, here, we are at home. My PhD is of no role. I'm just Nganga's wife. Those are the things that we are supposed to be helping the young people as we mentor them. And that's what Titus is being told. To be subject to their husbands. If you yourself quarrel your husband, if you yourself are rude to your husband, or if you yourself embarrass your wife, what do you think you are teaching? So that no one will malign the word of God. Anybody who doesn't live well, people say, are you? And those people are Christians. Similarly, encourage the young men to be self-controlled. I've done that 5 minutes, so I cannot allow you to do this. But I'd like you to do the exercise on your own. If you mentor people, these are some of the things I would encourage you to mentor them on. And here the question was, give an example, but I'd like you to still do this exercise on your own. If you're able to do with your spouse, that will be better. Number one, we mentor young people to move from poor self-image to positive self-image. That's something you must help them on. The assumption is we ourselves have positive self-image. Number two, we must help them to move from lack of confidence, lack of initiative, to confident, original, constructive creativity. Because a lot of people have no confidence. They even when they are very good, you need to help them. Number three, please look at your mentee with limited supply mindset. And of course, limited supply mindset. These are people always thinking there is not enough. They can't even think they will ever go places. Help them to get the abundance mindset, to understand there is no need of being greedy, trying to rush. There is enough for everybody. Number four, help people to see we don't need to be corrupt. That's why I wrote that book, Integrity, to answer my young mentee. When I say young, these are people who are around 50 years old now. To help my younger mentee to understand you can actually achieve in life through integrity. You don't have to enter into corruption. Number five, you must move people from consumption mindset to production mindset. Kenya is so taken up by dividing up the little we have. Nobody talks about increasing the cake. We're always thinking about, we are not dividing this cake, okay? That tribe has more than that. Nobody is bothering with how do you increase the cake. Help young people to understand that they should be taken up with production mindset rather than consumption. 6, you must help them to see the dangers of gender imbalance. What do they think about women? What do they think about men? Let them have gender equality in leadership. Let them be able to, the boys be able to respect the leader who is a woman. To understand there's a difference between a wife and a woman. If she's not your wife, you must treat her with the respect she decides. Your wife, you are the leader. You still must respect her. But do not take women as your wives. Gender imbalance is something you must help young people on. Next, the accepting of the status quo. And that's the way we found it. That's the way my mother did it. That's the way my father did it. Help them to see that it is possible to move from where you are to a change leadership. Next, some of them are self-centered. They have a self-centered leadership. How can you take them to where they sacrifice for others? And of course, there are people who just accept mediocrity. They don't go for excellence. These are areas that you must help your mentee on, but you must start with yourself. Challenges of mentorship in the 21st century. The biggest is pride of mentees. Because of the world becoming a global village, information is available. In fact, these days, when you speak in a campus, be aware that as you are speaking, they are Googling what you are saying. So basically, sometimes they dismiss you even before the end of your talk, before the end of your sermon. And whereas that's okay, I don't mind people Googling me up. Sometimes the pride will stop them learning. So you as a mentor are talking, but you're talking to yourself. Because they don't respect you, and there's no way you can mentor people who don't respect you. So you have to find a way of going over that barrier. The other barrier is age gap, culture differences. I used to think that because they used to have this thing we are calling age gap in the 1960s. I became a teenager in the 1960s and late 1960s. And we were teenagers and thinking that our parents are so backward. But you thought it's because they are not educated. So when I became a father myself, I didn't expect any age gap problem. Only to discover my wife and I are graduates, our children are teenagers, and they still think there's something too old about us. And I discovered it has nothing to do with English or speaking English. Each age has a culture. Now, so if you are going to mentor people, there are some things you must allow them to be different from you. Go for the essentials. Not these small issues, so that you are wasting your time on cultural differences rather than values. But sometimes the problem is the mentor himself. He wants to be directive rather than an advisor. Mentoring is adversarial. In other words, if the mentee succeeds, credit does not go to the mentor, because it's the mentee who decided what to take and what not to take. In the end, you can't beat your chest. So you need to go into mentoring with the understanding you're an advisor, not an instructor. You never tell your mentee, do this and do that. You ask them, can you consider this and this and this? And you need to agree right at the beginning of mentoring process that even if they don't do what you are telling them, the friendship continues. Because you are not telling them to do something, you are telling them to consider. And remember, you are not the only source of information. They are also having other mentors. Some of them read biographical books or whatever. So, a mentor who is directive rather than adversarial will create a problem in mentoring. And what about motivated mentors? There are challenges relating specifically to mentors. Low quality mentors are not motivated to help the mentee succeed and will be less effective and less engaged. Sometimes it's like you are competing with your mentee. So if he succeeds, you don't even want to admit he has succeeded. Wrong motivation or no motivation, you should have a great love and desire for the mentee to do well, better than you, better than your children, better than your nephew. If that is there, then you can mentor well. But then sometimes lack of purpose and goal setting for mentees. How do you mentor somebody who is going nowhere? That's why, to me, the first thing I do with everybody I mentor is to start by finding out what is your life's purpose. Unfortunately, mentees don't always know what they want from their mentoring relationship. It's important to help them to define clear business objectives. What are they in business to do? Assuming you are mentoring him in that. Do they even have a plan? If they do they have checkpoints to check where they are going and to check their continuation? But sometimes it's simply that the mentor and mentee are a wrong match. should be at the top of your mentoring program priority list. Who mentors who? Some mentees may only look at the mentor's title. Oh, mentor me, mentor me. Why? Because you are CEO. But the chemistry may not be there. Like the video I was recording this afternoon, I was saying, leaders must consider 3 things. I call them the triple C. Competence, character, and chemistry. So if you are going to be mentoring, you must look at the mentee, must look for in the mentor for all the 3. Competence. In the area you want to be mentored, does he know anything about it? Character. Is he living what he is saying? Chemistry. Do you respect him? Does he love you? That's a chemistry between you. And if good mentoring, you require all the 3. But then one of the worst things is mentees who don't give honest feedback. They, hey, I really enjoyed today. You are doing so well. They go and tell their mother, hey, it's a waste of time to be spending time with Nganga. Sometimes no feedback, sometimes bad feedback. You need somebody who can give you open feedback so you know whether you are helping or not helping. It's not uncommon for mentees to be guarded when they answer. They are thinking, what does he want to hear? They don't tell you the whole truth. And that will affect your mentoring relationship. Who needs mentorship? I think I've already referred to this. People who need encouragement, people who need confidence, people who need experience, people who need insight into industry expectations, insight on starting a career path, advice for everyday success. People need networking opportunities. Who knows this? Do you know somebody in this industry? Or agree to become a bouncing board. Whenever he has a new idea, he comes to tell you, and he'll tell you what you think about it. What you think about it. People need a bouncing board. Because, sometimes you are just a bouncing board. But people whose character has a problem, people who need skilling, people who need values. I've spent a lot of time emphasizing this. Motivate, model values, identify values, affirm values, transfer values, explain underlying reasons, demonstrate personal work, reinforce good decisions, point out flexibility. People tend to live up to the expectations of those they highly respect. So when you talk to a mentee who admires you, they are likely to want to be what you are discussing. These are Godwin's principles of expectation. And that's one of the things you can do to your mentee. Raise the expectations and let him try to reach them. As I go towards finishing, some practical things I have done the years in quest for mentoring young people. The people I used to mentor in the 1970s are not the ones I mentored in the 80s, are not the ones I mentored in every decade. I have a new group of people I work with. And that's why I told you they just disappear. When you are working with people, they get married, they start getting children, your meetings become less. After some time, you don't even meet. The other day, somebody I used to be with in the 1990s just said, Nganga, can we go around again? Now he's a retired person. And he's saying he wants us to be moving around together. So different experiences with different people. One of the things, for example, wherever we have been in the advisory body of a campus. I used to be involved with the Moi University when I was lived in Kisumu, and here in Nairobi, I've been Chiromo campus, main campus. We ensure at least once a year the whole committee comes home, not for a specific reason. We just eat and drink together, and they can ask any question about life, nothing to do with the Christian Union. And so that's been going on for a long time. The other day I was in Chuka University, and I don't know, I think I stayed over the weekend, and somebody said, there's somebody who wants to talk to you, one of the people in the neighboring place. So one of the lecturers drove me to to the home of these people. I could hardly remember them. And they said, you can't remember me? 1988, we came, I was in the executive of Main Campus Christian Union, and the whole committee, we came to your house in South B. Obviously, this is a person who knows me very well from home. But from 1988 to about 20, that may have been 2014 or thereabout, we had never met. Now they had adult children themselves. So, but those home visits have had all the years, people who come home. That gives them the freedom when they have a rig, when they are getting married, they feel, you remember you told me this? The other one I have done is inviting them to minister with me. I'm inviting a campus, we go with my mentees, especially fresh graduates. That I've done for a long time. Although I did it for a long time until one day I was speaking in Bible Society. I think they were having a retreat. I was a speaker there. And one of the people, one of the leaders in the Bible Society said, Nganga may not know. But when he asked me to be going with him in Kisumu, I was preaching in various colleges with him. He had graduated out of my university. I had never spoken somewhere else. You know, I'll go to a meeting, I give him a chance to witness. I go to another meeting, I give him a chance to witness. One time, and I was very impressed with his thought process. One day I had 2 missions, and I told him to go to Kereri Girls in Kisii. So he told me now, he reviewed, because he never reviewed that time. It was the first time he had ever preached on his own. He became a famous preacher after that. But he is saying it started from that mentoring process. So I do that. Even today, I still have a number of young people I'm moving around with. These days, they also get a chance to drive my car because many of them are younger and they can see better than me. So we do that, and we have been moving around with young people all the years for the last 40 years. I have talked about Java teas, and there have been many. If somebody wants to see me, I say, can I buy you tea? And in fact, sometimes I'm in Java so often that one day the manager said, no, today I'm the one paying for the lunch. That tells you how many times. Sometimes I have 5 people in one week whom I'm buying tea until I think called COVID came and we stopped going to Java. Now we can do Zoom or whatever. But some, of course, are just telephone calls. Somebody talks to me in the country, out of the country, and we have a long discussion on the telephone. Sometimes I even get involved in discussing the wedding process and the wedding negotiations. Of course, you know I don't like the word negotiation. You can't negotiate for a human being. Call it wedding relationship. And we talk, and I talk with people, helping them to think about the process and what can be done. And sometimes I become the spokesman. And sometimes people are confused about Bible text, so they want to talk to me basically on a controversial Bible text. But sometimes I just receive email questions and I reply them. But I want to tell you the basic requirement for mentoring is being accessible. I don't know why young people just enjoy talking to me. I don't think every old person has as many appointments, but maybe it's because, and I don't say no to anybody, I don't even have to have known you, and I just keep talking to them, and I'm still going on up to today. So those are some of the things I do. But you see, you can yourself get involved in by giving young leaders such as thing as timely advice. What about tapes? They have a question and you have a tape in your library. What about a track or a book? But sometimes they may require finances to do what they are talking about and help them to emerge as leaders. What about risking your own reputation in order to sponsor these young people? You tell so-and-so, Japheth, that's a very good boy. You are risking your own reputation in order to help him to get doors open. That's still part of the mentoring process. But I've also talked about modeling various aspects of leadership function as they watch you, and then challenging them to live like that. What about bridging those young leaders to needed resources? I talked about it earlier, becoming a network, You have a network, you have resources, there are places they can go. Maybe they want to begin a business, small business, they have no idea where to get money. That's part of it. What about co-ministering? And I've talked about that with those young leaders, to increase their confidence, status, and even credibility. The person's, Marquez says, the person's capacity to achieve is determined by their leader's ability to empower. You can reproduce yourself more by investing in young people. What then are the best practices in this age and era? Face-to-face is my recommendation. Face-to-face meeting between a more experienced employee or employer or older person or Christian and a person who requires guidance. That I don't think will ever go out of fashion. Or virtual mentoring. It's a form of mentoring that uses technology. Or group mentoring. When you have a group of young people and you are talking to them, they're asking you questions, you are mentoring all of them at a go. But it needs to be a small group so that anybody can ask questions. Or leadership development. This will mean a process of helping somebody to grow in his leadership. Or a new person, like the people that have that are getting thicker faith. After campus, I always, every year, we host a new graduates welcome tea in Aerobic Club. Now, of course, we can't do it for the last 2 years, and we are thinking about how to do it online. But we have done that over many years, where I bring new graduates, and then I bring older professionals. Then over a cup of tea, they talk one-on-one. Then the meeting ends with one older graduate giving a testimony. And I tell him, don't preach. Just tell us, from the day you left campus to now becoming a CEO, please share with us that process, the challenges, the successes, the failures. And I've done that over the last more than 10 years as a way of helping induction, onboarding for the new graduates. And you can help people. If you're a woman, you could help people with women leadership. And I think that will be important. And my prayer is that you will think about any one of these practical ways, because I don't think they are not difficult to actually get involved in. What about mentoring that can support diversity and inclusion, so that you are, by helping a person not of your tribe, helping a person who is not like you, it communicates to them to come out of their cocoon where they are suffering from tribalism or other problems. To tackle diversity imbalance, individuals from another represented group can be mentored and supported for faster inclusion into the leadership. The same thing with the issue of succession planning. It's part of mentoring. Similarly, as the older generation in your workforce near retirement, shouldn't they be helping to mentor new ones? Establishing a mentoring program where senior working people or even parents can help. If a group need to increase their skill in a certain area, just attach them to somebody who knows better. What about handling transitional periods? Now, my time is up. There's something called value-based mentoring, and it is called 8 principles of this type of mentoring, helping the mentee establish his purpose, then help him to do his own personal life assessment, a SWOT analysis of his life, helping him to understand what his potential is and describe where he wants to reach, what he feels God calling him, then help him to do a problem analysis to see that to reach there are problems he has to go over, some barriers. Then give him to have principles for change management, and then show him the processes of moving to this vision he has, and how to look for a network of partners, and how to track his progress towards where he is going. All of that, but we have run out of time. I was told to take 1 hour, and it's 1 hour. Thank you very much.